At some point soon, states will face a simple choice: give up federal education dollars or allow boys to play in girls' high school sports. 21 states have transgender sports bans, which is squarely at odds with the Biden administration. From NPR, the Biden administration moves to make broad transgender sports bans illegal. They're doing it by proposing changes to Title IX, which bans sex-based discrimination in federally funded education programs, basically including trans people into the rules. South Carolina's Attorney General hit back, saying we must not jeopardize the safety and well-being of women and girls in order to pursue a radical theoretical agenda with no basis in biological reality. South Carolina's Attorney General Alan Wilson with us now. Mr. Attorney General, we appreciate it, sir. Explain to us what this letter really means. Is it shouting at the wind and the Biden administration can effectively do what they want on this, or does it actually potentially have some teeth?
Well, obviously, this letter is part of a comment letter that a number of states, we're sending one on behalf of South Carolina. We've also joined in a number of state comment letters that other states are sending to basically throw down a marker for this administration to understand that the states have a very different position. You know, we believe that the purpose behind Title IX was to prohibit institutions of higher learning, secondary, middle schools, high schools, from discriminating against people on the basis of sex. And that was indeed to protect women. And so we want to protect sports we want to protect women rather from being discriminated against in the academic institutions. So this is our way of sending a message to the administration on what we intend to do if they pursue this.
All right. Well, the administration would counter, right, that they can do a few things if they intend to pursue this, including cutting off federal education funding to South Carolina if you don't follow the rules under Title IX. At least in 2021, that was $13 billion. You're talking about free and reduced lunches. You're talking about $13 billion of funding. Is it really worth that over what? How many trans kids have competed in girls' sports in South Carolina this past year?
Well, again, these are legal arguments. You know, we're obviously not going to encourage a school to not accept federal financial aid if they actually need it. We're not going to encourage them to violate a federal regulation that would deny them access to those funds. What we're saying is we're going to fight in the court of law to have the court interpret the law to mean what it was actually written, to mean what it actually said when it was written 50 years ago. So our goal is to try to protect the schools from being retaliated against by the federal government for following a law and the true meaning behind the words in that law.
All right, I hear you on this, and I know it's something people feel passionately about, and I don't think there's anybody who would want their daughter on a soccer field being run into by what is an 18-year-old man in a soccer match. That said, in South Carolina last year, as we understand it, there were precisely 2 transgender athletes. That is men who decided they were women and wanted to compete in high school sports as women. I'm wondering if it's not better to deal with these issues on a very local, individualized basis than by either the state or the federal government taking and dictating things down.
You actually just made my argument. I do agree with you that there's very few people that this would affect, and it should be dealt with on a localized level. Why is the federal government rewriting a 50-year-old federal law to comport with the leftist ideology that it was never intended to do? This should be something that local school districts and local communities should be able to deal with, not folks in Washington, D.C. The state of South Carolina is not fighting for the state to be able to control local schools. We're fighting for the right of schools to control local schools, not Washington, D.C.
Okay, so I just want to understand. So you would be against any statewide rules or protocols as it relates to transgender athletes or transgender bathrooms or anything like this. It should be left entirely to the individual school districts.
Look, I believe the closer a government is to the people that elect it, the more accountable it is. The school board members are far more accountable to parents than the state legislature is or the Congress is. So I would always push power.
I appreciate that. I just want to get this in, though, because South Carolina has a transgender sports ban. So I'm just wondering how to square this circle, that if it should be up to local control, how that would happen in a state that already has a transgender sports ban.
Well, again, I'm an executive branch of government. I'm duty bound by the Constitution to defend the laws of the state of South Carolina. It's duly elected representatives in the legislative branch of government, signed by the governor, passed a law that says this is what the state of South Carolina wants. It's still far better than Washington, D.C.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.